Now let's turn our attention to the UK, where the riots show no sign of dying down. They began in the seaside town of Southport last week.
The United Kingdom has long prided itself on being a melting pot of cultures, a place where people from diverse backgrounds come together to create a vibrant and dynamic society. Yet, this image has increasingly come under strain as the country grapples with the complexities of immigration. In recent years, the UK has faced a rising tide of nationalist sentiment, fueled by fears over immigration, economic instability, and the changing face of British society. This has culminated in a growing number of so-called patriots targeting immigrants and places of worship in an attempt to fight what they perceive as an immigration crisis. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. The roots of this crisis can be traced back to the early 2000s when the UK experienced a significant influx of immigrants.
Oh my God.
A mob of up to 300 people, including British Patriots, which the media calls members of the English Defence League, an anti-Muslim group,
particularly from Eastern Europe, following the enlargement of the European Union in 2004. This wave of immigration brought both opportunities and challenges, with many immigrants taking on jobs that were otherwise hard to fill, particularly in sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, and construction. However,
I live in Bang, down the road from where this dog lives.
British police are not doing their job, and they linked the incident that happened to be caused by an Islamist. More than 50 police officers sustained injuries, including fractures, cuts, and concussions.
It also led to concerns about job competition, pressure on public services, and the erosion of national identity. These concerns were exacerbated by the global financial crisis of 2008, which plunged the UK into a deep recession and led to widespread austerity measures. As public services were cut and unemployment rose, immigrants became an easy scapegoat for many of the country's economic woes.
More than 50 police officers sustained injuries, including fractures, cuts, and concussions, drawing vehement condemnation from top politicians, including Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Violence has since spread to other areas, with hundreds of British supporters clashing with police in central London late Wednesday.
Far-right groups who had long harbored anti-immigrant sentiments began to gain traction, capitalizing on the fear and uncertainty that pervaded British society. The 2016 Brexit referendum further intensified these sentiments, with the Leave campaign largely focusing on the issue of immigration. Slogans such as "Take Back Control" and "Breaking Point" played on fears of uncontrolled immigration, particularly from non-European countries, and the perceived loss of sovereignty,
injuring more cops and leading to more than 100 arrests. In the town of Hartlepool in northeast England, unrest continued into the early hours of Thursday as people set ablaze a vehicle and rioted in and around Murray Street.
The referendum result, in which 52% of the electorate voted to leave the EU, was seen by many as a mandate to clamp down on immigration, leading to a surge in nationalist fervor. In the wake of the Brexit vote, a number of groups and individuals began to identify themselves as patriots, positioning themselves as defenders of British culture and values against what they saw as the threat of uncontrolled immigration. These groups are often characterized by their vehement opposition to immigration, multiculturalism, and what they perceive as the Islamization of Britain.
As people set ablaze a vehicle and rioted in and around Murray Street, an area where Muslims live and there is a mosque.
I told you this is more than a riot.
Most media reported that
the term patriot in this context is often used to evoke a sense of national pride and loyalty, but it is also associated with exclusionary and at times violent rhetoric. These so-called patriots argue that immigration is undermining the fabric of British society, leading to a dilution of traditional values and the rise of parallel communities that do not integrate with the broader population. For them, the preservation of British culture requires a strict and often hostile approach to immigration.
the rioting was fanned by online misinformation regarding the identity of the attacker who killed 3 minor girls and injured 5 other children and 2 adults at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class on Monday. Reports on most social media accounts suggested the suspect was a Muslim and a migrant.
The rise of these groups has been facilitated by social media platforms, which have provided a space for like-minded individuals to connect, share their views, and organize events. While many of these groups operate on the fringes of society, their message has resonated with a significant portion of the population, particularly in areas that have experienced rapid demographic changes. The rhetoric of these patriots often revolves around the idea of defending the nation from what they see as an invasion of immigrants.
Reports on most social media accounts suggested the suspect was a Muslim and a migrant, claims that were reflected in the mob's chants. Police have so far said the suspect is a 17-year-old man who was born in Cardiff, the capital of Wales.
This language of defense has, in many cases, translated into acts of aggression and violence. Immigrants, particularly those from non-European countries, have increasingly become the targets of hate crimes, harassment, and physical attacks.
Serena Kennedy, Chief Constable of Merseyside Police, warned there is a risk of more violence and riots in the coming days, citing intelligence about further protests potentially into the weekend. We are planning now for the next 24 hours, but also into the weekend and into next week, she told reporters.
One of the most prominent examples of this violence occurred in 2016, just days after the Brexit referendum, when a Polish immigrant named Arkadiusz Jozwik was brutally attacked in the town of Harlow by a group of teenagers. Jozwik, who had been living in the UK for several years, was assaulted simply because he was speaking Polish. The attack was widely condemned and highlighted the growing hostility towards immigrants in the country. Such incidents are not isolated. Reports from the Home Office and
Steve Rotherham, mayor of the Liverpool City region, acknowledged the grave threat posed by the British protesters in the UK and throughout Europe. We see far-right extremism across Europe, and we're no different. We need to ensure that we counter some of the fake news and the false narratives that these people rely on to try and get support.
Various human rights organizations have documented a significant increase in hate crimes since the Brexit vote, with immigrants, particularly those from Muslim and Eastern European communities, being disproportionately targeted. This violence is often justified by perpetrators as a form of self-defense, a way to protect the country from the perceived threat of immigration. The impact of these attacks extends beyond the immediate victims,
he said in response to an Anadolu question. As for the rioters, he said they were not locals, but rather outside agitators who went back to different places in the UK. We know that the social media posts were trying to stir up a number of white,
immigrant communities across the UK have reported feeling increasingly unsafe and unwelcome, with many individuals altering their behavior to avoid drawing attention to themselves. Some have even considered leaving the country altogether, fearing for their safety in an increasingly hostile environment. In addition to targeting individual immigrants, these so-called patriots have also directed their ire towards places of worship.
Right-wing extremists to come here and to create those sorts of scenes that we all witnessed, he said. Dozens gathered outside the Southport Mosque with brushes and shovels, clearing bricks from a wall knocked down by rioters. Ibrahim Hussein, head of the Southport Mosque,
particularly mosques and Islamic centers. For these groups, Islam is often viewed as incompatible with British values, and the presence of mosques is seen as evidence of the Islamization of Britain. This perception has led to a number of attacks on places of worship, ranging from vandalism to arson and even bomb threats. One of the most high-profile incidents occurred in 2017 when Darren Osborne drove a van into a group of worshippers outside the Finsbury Park Mosque in London.
Like the helmet. Safety helmets.
Killing one person and injuring several others. Osborne, who had been radicalized by far-right propaganda online, later stated that his intention was to kill as many Muslims as possible. The attack shocked the nation and underscored the deadly consequences of the anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim rhetoric that has become increasingly prevalent in certain circles. Mosques are not the only religious institutions to have been targeted. Sikh gurdwaras and Hindu temples have also been attacked, often by individuals who mistakenly believe these places of worship to be Islamic.
He's good! What up? He punched!
These attacks reflect a broader ignorance and intolerance towards non-Christian religions, which are often lumped together by far-right groups under the banner of foreign or un-British beliefs. The targeting of places of worship has had a profound impact on religious communities in the UK. Many mosques and Islamic centers have had to increase security measures, including installing CCTV cameras, hiring security personnel, and even placing barriers around their premises to protect worshippers.
Get down! Get down!
And we must protect our right to speak above all other rights.
Enough is enough. Taking a stand against hate speech and extremism. On July 27th,
these measures, while necessary, have also contributed to a sense of siege and alienation among these communities, who feel that they are being unfairly targeted for their faith. The rise of these so-called patriots and the subsequent targeting of immigrants and places of worship cannot be understood without considering the role of social media and online platforms. The internet has provided a fertile ground for the spread of far-right ideologies, allowing individuals to connect with like-minded others, share content, and organize events. Platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube have been criticized for their role in amplifying hate speech and extremist content. Far-right groups have used these platforms to spread their message, often using inflammatory and provocative language to stoke fear and anger. Videos and posts that promote anti-immigrant sentiment or that depict immigrants as criminals or invaders are often shared widely.
Riots erupted on the streets of Southport last night, following a knife attack on Monday, which left 3 girls dead and other young children in a critical condition.
I think it is high time we put things straight to all these illegal migrants for putting the security of our country in chaos.
Reaching millions of people. The algorithms used by these platforms also play a role in radicalizing individuals. By prioritizing content that generates strong emotional reactions, these algorithms can lead users down a rabbit hole of increasingly extreme content. Someone who begins by watching a video about immigration, for example, may soon find themselves recommended videos that promote conspiracy theories or advocate for violence against immigrants.
We would like to thank the police very much because they took a lot of casualties and they didn't need to. He also believes the rioters were not from Southport. They're coming from outside, obviously helping each other and texting each other and telling each other to come and meet here and destroy this building and destroy the people here, he told Anadolu.
This process of online radicalization has had real-world consequences. Individuals like Darren Osborne, who committed the Finsbury Park attack, have cited online content as a major influence in their actions. The ability of far-right groups to reach and radicalize individuals online has made them a formidable force, one that is difficult to combat using traditional law enforcement methods.
it leads to radicalization, terrorism, and the erosion of social cohesion. The British people have a right to feel safe in their own communities, and this protest is a call to action to combat extremism before it takes root. The July 27th protest will be a peaceful and lawful event.
The UK government has taken a number of steps to address the rise in hate crimes and the targeting of immigrants and places of worship. These measures include increased funding for police forces to tackle hate crimes, new legislation to address online hate speech, and initiatives to promote community cohesion and integration. One of the key components of the government's response has been the Hate Crime Action Plan, which was first launched in 2016 and has since been updated several times. The plan includes measures to improve the recording and reporting of hate crimes, support victims, and hold perpetrators accountable. It also emphasizes the importance of education and awareness raising, with a focus on challenging the prejudices that underlie hate crimes. In addition to these domestic efforts, the UK government has also worked with international partners to combat the spread of far-right ideologies online. This includes collaborating with social media companies to remove extremist content and countering online radicalization through initiatives such as the Online Safety Bill, which seeks to hold tech companies accountable for harmful content on their platforms. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us? What do you think will happen next in the UK's immigration crisis? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.